It is the price you pay to play. If you're not going to take care of your business and be on time with what you're doing, then it's the price you pay because you're playing around with they with their property. So get it back. I mean, the drop box is outside. You don't even have to go in the building. Come on, people. Hey guys, it's your girl Memphis Jones, and you're at my channel, the Hey There Blog, a bookish blog. And yes, I am yet again in my car and in a parking lot. But such is life because, hey, honey, I work and I work long hours. And so I want to be able to participate and communicate with you all. So a lot of the times is in my car. I'm coming to you right now with the library tag. Now, no, I was never tagged by anyone, but that's okay because I've watched this video on Hannah's books and the Mild Rumpus, and I've seen several individuals who I follow online do this particular tag, and I had to jump on this one because I love it so much. So let's go ahead and get this done so I can get out of this parking garage, good people. So question 1 says, how often do you go to the library? And I can tell you right now, not often enough. I used to go to the library often when I lived on base because I needed study materials. I was taking CLEP and Dante's tests repeatedly so that I can expedite getting my degree. And so I utilized the library for that information. And I also utilized the library for movies when I was stationed overseas because I lived on the economy or within the cities, but I would get movies off of the base so that I can watch the latest releases of movies that I wasn't able to catch in those locations where I lived. And if you're wondering, that would be Germany and Belgium. Now, yes, they do have releases of U.S. movies that come out, and they will have usually translation on the screen so that you can, read the words unless it was already in English. And many of them were already in English. But there are times when you just wanted to stay at home and watch a few movies, and the best place to get those would be the library. I also checked out a lot of books on CD or books on tape, especially when I traveled on the road. I would get a lot of that from the library before I hit the road. So, having said that, when I moved into the northern area of Virginia, I stopped going to the library. It just wasn't on my radar. And it didn't get on my radar until I started to watch more videos on YouTube about how you could have more Libby accounts and gain access to more audiobooks and ebooks, things like that, as well as the documentaries that they have through Canopy. That's also part of your library account. So the resources that are available now at the library did not exist 10, 12, 15 years ago. It's amazing how libraries have evolved with the times, and I'm glad that they did, because so many of us are connected to devices now that most of what we want to consume, we're receiving that from a device. And so having your library card really saves you money and time. And also it gives you a community asset to participate in. So that was a long answer. I'm going to be shorter from this point forward. Do you belong to more than one library system? So as I said, I just recently started back to communicating, not communicating, but spending more time with my library system. And part of that has to do with, I have to give my job credit for that because my job has a Libby profile where we can check out books. When I realized that that was actually a broader system, then I went to my local library And actually, I have a video about that, because how I ended up at my local library was because I went to vote. And when I realized that in the area that I was living in, I had recently moved, my voting location was my library. So good people, you know, I had to take advantage of that time. After I voted, I went and got my new library card, and I felt so alive. It was electric. I was so excited and proud of myself to get my new library card, because my last library card was in my hometown of Memphis, Tennessee. And I need to check into that, because I don't know if I got, after a certain amount of years, the card expired or anything like that. I need to check and see, because if not, I'm sure they have. But if not, honey, then I have a library card in Memphis City, and I have a library card in Yuba City, California, and I still have those cards, and I just assumed that I would not be able to use them. But now that we're all connected electronically through sites like Libby, then if they are still active, then yes, I have that many more cards and access to that many more systems. I also went to the DC library, the main one down in downtown in DC, and for an event, and I took the time there just last week to get myself a library card in DC, which is allowed because DC considers Maryland and Virginia, the communities are so connected that you're allowed to have the DC library card as well. I also signed up for the Library of Congress, and I'm going to go tomorrow and pick up my library card from there. So, you know, take all of the opportunities that are presented to you, because each library has a different or the same set of memberships that comes along with your library card. But some of them have, you know, different books, and they may have a book that you're looking for at one and it may be at the other instead, and so you're just giving yourself more opportunities to obtain the resource that you are looking for by having multiple library cards. And as long as it's okay, then go for it. You know, even those library systems that allow for digital cards, if it's allowed and this is your method of support, go for it. You know, I'm all for it. Let's see here. What % of books do you read from the library? I can say that's a big fat goose egg 0. I don't get physical books from the library. I get the Libby books from the library, and that supplements, like I said, my other accounts through Libby. So I would say that may be about 5% of the books that I read comes from the library through Libby. Do you listen to audiobooks or get ebooks from the library, or are you hooked on Audible or Amazon? So yes, I do get audiobooks and ebooks through the library system, as I stated in the previous question. But yes, I am also, I have a large library on Audible. I have a substantial Kindle library, and I also get audiobooks and ebooks from Google Books, as well as there are free systems. I want to say LibriVox is the title. It's through the Gutenberg system, and I'll have to look it up and link it. But there are free audiobooks, there are free ebooks online where you can download that information, because it's open source. As long as it's now part of the public domain and it's open source, then you can just get that information, you know, and read those books. I recently read the Case of Benjamin Button. Obviously, I saw the movie. It was a great movie. But the book literally had me laughing out loud. It's not a long book, but it had me laughing out loud. But it's on the public domain. So that's how I ended up reading that book, downloaded as an ebook. So there are other options outside of Audible, Amazon, and the library. So I'll link some of those below for you guys. Let's see here. Did you go to story time at the library as a kid? That's goose egg. I don't recall going to the library at all as a child. I recall going to the library on my own accord when I was about, I want to say I was about 12 or 13, because we had moved to a neighborhood that just so happens a field separated my duplex from the local library. And I just walked through the field to the library and got myself a library card. And I actually don't believe I got the card. I think I just stayed there and read, and just perused, because it was my first time going into a public library that I could remember. And so from there, most of my time as a child in the library was the school library, but not the public library. And like I said, I don't remember ever going to story time at the library. Have you ever borrowed a movie or video game from the library? As I previously stated, yes. I highly and heavily utilized the library systems on base when I lived overseas and when I was stationed in the States for all of the various things that were available except for video games, because I never got into playing video games. So CDs, DVDs, VHS, and books of all kinds, but primarily study material, I consumed heavily during those years. The next question is, have you ever gotten fined for returning books late? If so, how do you feel about that? Yes, I have. And you beat yourself up a little bit, but then you recognize the library has limited resources, and you're not the only one trying to use that resource. So they have to give some incentive or penalty to ensure that you bring back their property for the next person who's also wanting to consume that information. So did it bother me? Not really. And if I'm being honest, it was very minimal. I don't recall it being very much at all. So it is the price you pay to play. If you're not going to take care of your business and be on time with what you're doing, then it's the price you pay, because you're playing around with with their property. So get it back. I mean, the drop box is outside. You don't even have to go in the building. Come on, people. So let's see here. Do you attend special events, groups, or book sales at the library? I do attend events at the library. As I just stated, last week, as a matter of fact, last week alone, I attended 2 events. I attended a documentary viewing hosted by the National Women's History Museum in the D.C. Martin Luther King Library in downtown D.C. They hosted a documentary showing of storming Caesar's Palace. And I actually intend to do a video about what that was all about. But storming Caesar's Palace was a protest led by mothers against the city of Las Vegas, Nevada, and their welfare system program, working mothers, working in the casinos, still not making enough income to take care of their households and their children. And so these mothers, along with mothers in other regions, started to get together, and they built a network to ensure that their voices were heard by those who controlled the welfare system, to understand, we know what you think of us. We know that you think that we're all just sitting at home making babies and waiting for you to pay for us. But as a matter of fact, we are working women, trying to maintain home, trying to take care of our children. And we need this to bridge the gap from check to check. Who are you to judge us? By law, this is what the law has stated, and we need you to follow the law, not how you feel. Anyway. Let me keep moving. So the next question. Oh, and the second event that I attended last week was uh, Whoopi Goldberg was at the Library of Congress, and she was talking about her new book, which is about her mother, and her brother. And it was just so funny, the story she told about, you know, the interactions between her and her mom, and how her brother was her driver, and how he seemed to have maintained relationships all over the place and make every one of these women feel like they were the one and only, baby. The one and only. He was good. At any rate, it was so much fun. So I was glad that I was able to do that. My next question is, let me see. Have you ever given or taken a book from a little free library, a book box, or a book swap? Now, I have done book swaps, but I have also taken books from the little free library. We have one in my apartment community, and every time I walk my dog, I try not to make eye contact with this box. I try not to make eye contact because I don't want to pick up another book. I am so addicted to collecting books, not just reading books, but collecting books, people. This is a problem. I have yet again had to go through my books just this weekend, see what I'm going to read and what I'm not going to read, set up the rest of my TBR for May so that I can complete them. I actually have them sitting in my face. When I roll over and open my eyes every morning, I see my library and I see my TBR, and I have these books set in places where I must pick it up, or else it's just staring at me and I'm staring at it. So I don't make eye contact with this box because at this point I have 5 books from this box. One of them I'm holding for Hispanic Heritage Month. But the other 4 I need to consume. I don't know what's going on with me in this box. Now, I have also donated to a little. I literally saw one that was so cute to me because it had these oversized Adirondack chairs situated in front of it. And I actually have a little video about this. I'll post it in the comments in the description. Because when I went to donate to this box, I also restacked everything, but it was at the height of cicada season, and these cicadas were everywhere. And one in particular landed on my chest, would not move, and when I knocked him off, he landed on my windshield and just stared at me as we drove down the street. I was like, you are not my man. You are not my boo. You need to stop making eye contact. And don't be landing all up in here and whatnot. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? I know you came out the ground to find your baby, but I ain't her. I can't help you, mister. Anyway, so yeah, that happened. Oh, and the last question here is a bonus. Does your librarian know your name? Again, a big goose egg, because I'm a transplant. I move around too much. And I just started going to this particular library. She was a very nice librarian, and she was just as happy as I was about how happy to be there to get my card. And when I got my card last week at the DC library, that young lady was also feeding off of my energy of how happy I was, to be able to walk in and get this particular card. I was also pretty stoked about the fact that not only was I in the DC library for an event, but there were 2 other events unrelated to my event happening in that same space. And one of them happens to have been Willow Smith, because she has her new book out. And I was just like, so much is happening here. This is one happening library. So, and while I didn't get to see the talk with Willow Smith, I know that's going to be posted soon by Mahogany Books on their YouTube page. So I'll make sure that I grab that also and share the link in the community tab so that you all can see her talk about, you know, her book as well. And I purchased the book, and I made a little video for that book too. So I make a lot of videos. They just never get edited and get posted. I'm terrible. I really am. I'm really trying to do better. But yeah, no librarian knows my name. This ain't Cheers, you know, because I'm just never there enough. And maybe I'll be able to change that in the future by having my presence be seen, felt, and heard more often. But we'll see how life treats me on that one. And lastly, it says here to tag some friends, but you know what? You're all friends, so consider yourselves tagged. You don't have to have a large YouTube channel or BookTube channel in order to do these tags. They are so fun. Just do them. Talk about them. Try to ask your friends and family these questions. And, you know, if you got too many goose eggs here, maybe work on that. You know, because the library is the place for community. And most of us are looking for community. And that's why we're on spaces like BookTube, you know. But your community is waiting for you to come in and embrace them and interact with them. So give your library a try. And then give this tag a try. All right? I may think of some people who are newer to the BookTube space and tag them. But right now, as of this moment, consider yourself tagged. All right? Have a good night, and thank you for being here with me on Hey Dear Bookish Blog. All right? Good night. So this is such a very active library. I'm at the Martin Luther King Jr. Library in D.C., and I'm here to see Storming Caesar's Palace, which is hosted by the National Women's History Museum. But then we also have happening over here the Healthy Women's annual Healthy Women's event happening here. And what I just learned is that Willow Smith is being hosted by Mahogany Books downstairs on the first floor.